abigafo ene eye we eye musonfo Christy GH ene so eye Kwabenaholic TV ene so minimum edi ahia ewe na ene nsem a etwagu ewo eye parliament no once enche ye me parliament nsensem bi e de bremu na ene ne ekwaso ne de esewani ensase kachew na ma ye se asem no e banko ade a me de bebremu esan se me so oman Ghana ene eye abigafo a wo a wo hwe me wo a wo tie me wo na me kasem e kirew wo na me so wo so atiase ane wo menim nko ade wo na me so esan se wo na ene wo na sisi ano wo ye de wo hwe me eno nti nsam a ekoso no ene mo somfo Christy GH me de nsam no ntiemo e de bremo eye Honorable Haruna Iddrisu ane ene nsam a ye Honorable Haruna Iddrisu e de abetu dwa no nsam no emu eye papa nsam be na ye Honorable Haruna Iddrisu e de eba nsam no efiri NDC akache ane usha NDC akache pe donko mu so atase nsam na ye Honorable Haruna Iddrisu e de ebobo eye NPP for MPs no NPP MPs ni na my din I don't know why e wo eye parliament one but yanko unim Haruna eye Honorable Haruna Iddrisu o ka sembi e de fa eye NPP MPs no nsam be na oka enu nti ama MPs ni nyina aden aidin ewo eye parliament wo na yenko tie nsam no mu nchire mu ne yenhwe ne nti a oka sansensem no ene de oji ne nyina so a ode ka saa waka masisi a nsam ni bia koka eye nana adodankwa ekofuado ene eye Ken Ofori-Atta ane yenko tie nsam no mu nchire mu ne ba de obi anso ne yenkohwe ne ekoso ye ba de obi anso mo so fu DGH ne de aka atom so be de wase yenkobra.
They were running, they said superior managers of the economy. What happened to the Fiscal Responsibility Act? It was on suspension even before you exited political power. You said you wanted fiscal prudence. You brought in a Fiscal Responsibility Act with Ken Ofori-Atta as your minister. When we said censure him, you said no. Now that you have lost, you want to blame him for everything. You supported him to mess the country up, mess the economy up, and mess your administration up. So walk in regret and live in regret. When we said that he should be called to order, you overborrowed. And Mr. Speaker, again, let this parliament work for the people of Ghana. Ghana needs to have a ceiling on how much we can borrow. It cannot be at every time as it pleases a finance minister. He walks here, Parliament fails in its responsibility, grants him between 2017 and 2021 before COVID, $3.5 billion. Yet the previous NDC administration did just $1 billion. So again, elephant appetite for borrowing. Your government had an elephant appetite for borrowing. At every time you wanted to borrow, and you borrowed, you undertook fiscal infrastructure. You say you are building Agenda 111 hospital, 88. At least, if 2 or 3 of it was functional, it will make meaningful contribution to maternal health, improve healthcare delivery in Ghana. Your overambitious initiative, you got none completed. You are more interested in winning votes at the December election than caring for the lives of Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama will soon launch the Mahama Cares, where some money will be dedicated and seed money provided to the Mahama Care, which will deal with diseases that are not catered for under the National Health Insurance Fund. Mr. Speaker, then to IMF. You said you won't go to IMF. You finally held a calabash begging the IMF. Yet you were here that no. You must govern with some sincerity. Today we are back to IMF. This is the 17th IMF program of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we will have to resolve as a country have to deal with it. Mr. Speaker, the President Mahama also promised 24-hour economy. And let me assure members of this House that it is not going to be driven largely by the public sector. It will be a private sector driven initiative of President Mahama. And Mr. Speaker, sooner than later, the Minister for Finance and Attorney General will be in this House to amend the Ghana Investment Promotion Act, the GIPC Act, to provide for adequate strategic incentives to any investor who wants to invest in a 24-hour economy. We need to expand the manufacturing sector of this country. Investors such as Japon Textiles, Akusumbo Textiles, and Palugu Tomato Factory. Any investor who can bring in money and run it for 24-hour economy, President Mahama in this parliament will support him to do that, so that it will generate employment and also contribute to the GDP growth. What this parliament, Mr. Speaker, must insist in future, you came with one district, one factory. You are reminded, do you have one in Wale Wale? Is your watermelon factory functioning well? Ask whether the Nsawam factory is working. But Mr. Speaker, the important thing is that in granting tax exemption and incentives to the private sector, we must ask three questions as Parliament. One, how much are you contributing to employment? Two, what is your contribution to GDP before we make those generous grants to them? But Mr. Speaker, if you take from Kumasi, Ashanti up to Wale Wale, you will not find any factory that employs 1,000 or 2,000 people. So for instance, the people in the Brown for region, poultry, government will want to invest in poultry farming. That is their advantage. We should support them to do that. Cashew, we should support them to do that. So the 24-hour economy, government will provide, under the leadership of President Mahama, an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Not your government which came and destroyed the Ghanaian private sector. Yes. Go and ask the private sector, whether AGI or Association of Ghana Industries, the harm when they were borrowing at those prohibitive interest rates, it did not allow for that. So, Mr. Speaker, then I come to the energy sector. This country, Mr. Speaker, we need a second gas plant. Beyond Atuabu gas, maybe in Kumasi somewhere in Sinyane, we should be thinking of the establishment of another gas plant so that we reduce the fuel consumption, which is part of the cost of the electricity company of Ghana. Again, it was the NDC, the vision of John Evans Atta Mills at the time, who invested $800 million in getting the Atuabu gas plant constructed. Look at the gain and the benefits that it has done. All this year that you borrowed 741, almost $50 billion. What did you do with that money? What did you do with that money? Then, Mr. Speaker, they failed again to thank President Mahama for introducing ESLA. Those were part of the taxes you described as nuisance taxes. Yet you benefited
conclude.
45 billion. What happened to the Fiscal Responsibility Act? It was on suspension even before you executed political power. You said you wanted fiscal prudence. You brought in a Fiscal Responsibility Act with Ken Ofori-Atta as your minister. When we said censure him, you said no. Now that you have lost, you want to blame him for everything. You supported him to mess the country up, mess the economy up, and mess your administration up. So walk in regret and live in regret. When we said that he should be called to order, you overborrowed. And Mr. Speaker, again, let this parliament work for the people of Ghana. Ghana needs to have a ceiling on how much we can borrow. It cannot be at every time as it pleases a finance minister. He walks here, parliament face